Hello, well, I decided to do a video about black feminist thought, and the interesting thing was that when I was looking on YouTube and trying to see some definitions of black feminism, I was actually quite surprised with what I was able to search. And there isn't any consistent definition of black feminism that comes from texts of black feminists in the academy, for example. And black feminism just doesn't sort of manifest itself in written text. There's so many different expressions of black feminism. So you could have black feminism as in audio expressions, visual expressions, written expressions, basically different expressions that appeal to the different senses, human senses and non-human senses. So I decided to do a video about black feminism, and my understanding of black feminism is basically a discipline of knowledge that um, allows one to begin to question different systems of domination and oppression. Now, within the discipline of feminism, feminism basically looks at ways that women are oppressed through systems that are tied to control by men. Now, one of the things within Western feminism was that black feminists confronted the racism and the systemic dimensions of oppression in the discipline of feminism, because prior to that there was a lot of talk about equality with men or separatist communities from men, and black feminists listened to this and said, wait a minute here, what are these women actually talking about? Because when we experience oppression, oppression comes in the form of, for example, slavery, and in different systems of slavery, black women were oppressed along with their black men. So therefore, black women and black men work together in heterosexual relations, in non-heterosexual relations, even in queer relations. Black women and black men work together. So that is basically how black feminism came to be differentiated from, let's say, the discipline of feminism. So it does talk about a type of gender oppression, but it looks at more of the systemic dimensions and the racialized, and then that perpetuates into so many different or I should say that manifests into so many different types of oppressions. So I hope that clears up some kind of explanation with respect to what black feminism is, and that's my understanding of it based on different texts that I've read. But I'm actually reading a piece from Patricia Hill-Collins. It's her text called Black Feminist Thought. I don't know if you can see that. Here, let me put it that way. By Black Feminist Thought, Knowledge, Consciousness, and the Politics of Empowerment by Patricia Hill-Collins. And this is the second edition, as you can see. Maybe not see. Let me just try flipping this camera. There we go, second edition. So, I'm going to actually read a piece from chapter 2. It says, Distinguishing Features of Black Feminist Thought. Okay. So basically the chapter opens up with two quotes. One quote by Barbara Omalande, I hope I'm saying the name correct, and Patricia Williams. And the first quote says, I am a product of an intellectual tradition which until 25 years ago did not exist within the academy. Like patchwork in a quilt, it is a tradition gathered from meaningful bits and pieces. My tradition has no name because it embraces more than womanism, blackness, or African studies, although those terms do for now. In the second quote, it says, It seems I am running out of words these days. I feel as if I am on a linguistic treadmill that has gradually but unmistakably increased its speed so that no word I use to positively describe myself or my scholarly projects last for more than 5 seconds. I can no longer justify my presence in academia, for example, with words that exist in the English language. The moment I find some symbol of my presence in the rare field halls of elite institutions, it gets stolen, co-opted, filled with negative meaning by Patricia Williams in 1995. And the quote before was from 1994. The date today is February 2011. So this is what Patricia Hill-Collins has to say in chapter 2, called Distinguishing Features of Black Feminist Thought, about black feminism. U.S. black women's struggles on this linguistic treadmill to name this tradition with no name reveal the difficulties of making do with terms that will do for now. Widely used yet increasingly difficult to define, U.S. black feminist thought encompasses diverse and often contradictory meanings, despite the fact that U.S. women in particular have expended considerable energy on naming black women's knowledge. Definitional tensions not only persist, but encourage changing political climates riddled with new obstacles. When the very vocabulary used to describe black feminist thought comes under attack, black women's self-definitions become even more difficult to achieve. For example, despite a continued acceptance among many African Americans of Afrocentrism as a term referencing traditions of black consciousness and racial solidarity, academics and media pundits maligned the term in the 1980s and 1990s. Similarly, the pejorative meanings increasingly attached to the term feminist seem designed to discredit a movement. I'm just turning the page here. Dedicated to women's empowerment. Even the term black fell victim to the deconstructive movement, with a growing number of black intellectuals who do race scholarship questioning the very term used to describe both themselves and their political structures. Collectively, these developments produced a greatly challenged political and intellectual context for defining black feminist thought. Despite these difficulties, finding some sort of common ground for thinking through the boundaries of black feminist thought remains important because, as U.S. black feminist activist Pearl Cledge reminds us, we have to see clearly that we are a unique group set undeniably apart because of race and sex with unique set of challenges. Rather than developing definitions and arguing over naming practices, for example, whether this thought should be called black feminism, womanism, Afrocentric feminism, Africana womanism, and the like, a more useful approach lies in revisiting the reasons why black feminist thought exists at all. Exploring 6 distinguishing features that characterize black feminist thought may provide the common ground that is so sorely needed both among African American women and between African American women and all others whose collective knowledge or thought has a similar purpose. Black feminist thought's distinguishing features need not to be unique and may share much with other bodies of knowledge. Rather, it is the convergence of these distinguishing features that gives U.S. black feminist thought its distinctive contours. So that's basically on page 21 and 22 about what black feminist thought is. And I found that really interesting to, I'm just stretching. I found that really interesting to read, and I find myself, I have to read it over and over and over again, and I have to read different definitions over and over again from different texts. Once in a while, because sometimes when you are out in the community or out and about in the world doing different things, you sort of get lost in different whatever is happening out there in the world. So my thing for black feminism is that it certainly has helped me to reconstruct my person, because growing up in a community such as Canada, in a very rural community, there wasn't a lot of information to access about yourself, about your ancestry, your history. So you kind of grow up being this person that's sort of floating around, not knowing what's going on, whatnot. And it wasn't until I relocated to a more urban center that I began to realize that there was something very beautiful about black, yourself, and getting down to, questioning what exactly is in the academy. That's why I get myself involved in the academy. So with respect to black feminism, it certainly has helped me to even shape some of my principles when it comes to my participation in the environmental movement, and within, the discipline of, let's say, environmental justice, and what is happening in Canada with respect to the disproportionate exposure to different communities to environmental toxins and environmental hazards. It makes me look at not interpersonal relations, but more of the systemic dimensions of why these things are happening. So when we come together as a collective, for example, I'm just giving you an example of some kind of work that we may do, is that we sit down as a group and we look at all the different legislations. We also look at different policies. And then we say, okay, the policy says this, but the community is experiencing this. So why is there this gap between the two? So then we go and we approach certain entities about that gap, and we say, okay, what are you willing to do about the gap? And so what we do is we equip ourselves with tools so that we can try and negotiate some medium to bring the gap together, or just, litigate it in the courts. So that's basically what black feminism has taught me. But within the environmental justice movement, everything is based on a collective. And there are different strains of environmentalism, so it's really up to one to be able to question, which one really suits my values? Which ones really suits the way I treat myself in relation to other people? Or whatever question you can come up for yourself. And in my particular interest, I don't really question my treatment in relation to others, but I question a lot of this discourse and theories that socially construct these ideas that people must live their lives according to oppression, according to exploitation, according to a lot of things that originate from the academy. So it's very important for black folk, and in particular black women, to question what exactly is happening in the academy and get involved. Now, this is my third YouTube video, and I'm slowly getting used to this YouTube thing, but this is just my little spiel about black feminism. So I know there's a little bit of some slurs or whatnot, but I hope that you understand what I was trying to say. And if I'd really appreciate your comments about black feminism. Just take a look on YouTube, do a keyword search of black feminism, and look at the garbage that comes up. And if you want to see, I shouldn't say the garbage that comes up, but do a keyword search of feminism and look at the garbage that comes up. There's a lot of gender hatred, and this is the stuff that men, need to know about, because this stuff, imagine dealing with this stuff in your home, or when there's a difference of opinion, you're with your partner, and your partner begins to act in some way that perpetuates another form of gender hatred. And it's unfortunate that not women's studies isn't taken a little bit more seriously, but thank goodness for expressions that come in so many different forms. And when you tap into those expressions, whether they be the written word, the spoken word, the word that is heard, or whatever else appeals to the different senses, human and non-human senses, you begin to see the importance of feminism. So this is my little video for today, my little sharing of thought. It's my third video, and my question for you is, how do you actually connect to black feminism, and what do you understand about black feminism? Okay, thanks for watching, and I appreciate your comments, and you can also send me private messages, but if you're going to send me a perverted private message, you know what? I'm just not into that stuff, and I will block you. So I'm just hoping that you do send messages that are within the context of the video. Okay? Thanks, or comments and criticisms. Okay? Thanks, and have yourself a nice day, a nice morning, a nice night, wherever you are in the world. Thanks.